Hi friends, and welcome back to another episode of This is for the Soul, the podcast, and I'm your lovely host, Brianna Sade. If you are new here, welcome, and if you are not, welcome back. On this podcast, I talk about all things self-love, spirituality, mental health, girl talk, you name it, I'm gonna talk about it. So for today's episode, I'm going to be talking about mental health and spirituality in the Black community. You guys should know by now I am not one to shy away from these type of topics because I am all for mental health. I'm young, I am Black, and I just think that it is so sad that in the Black community there's this huge stigma around mental health and treatment. But of course there's multiple reasons that play a factor into why this is. There's a lack of knowledge, a lot of pride, and the biggest problem, generational trauma. I would argue that generational trauma is the biggest problem because if you go back into Black history, slavery, Jim Crow era, civil rights movement, mental health wasn't a big topic of discussion. There was no therapy, there was no freely discussing your personal issues and finding ways to heal from them. It was more of a be strong, be tough, have thick skin, deal with your shit, and keep it pushing. And unfortunately, that's why a lot of our problems and a lot of our issues get swept under the rug because we don't know how to deal with them. Back then, they literally had no choice. All of that unhealed trauma, emotional damage, it bled through generations, and now to this day, we are still traumatized. Which is why it's very common for a lot of us to turn to spirituality, drugs, violence, alcohol, and all these unhealthy coping mechanisms instead of actually going and seeking professional help. There are so many people in the world right now that are mentally struggling but refuse to do anything about it because it's perceived as a weakness to let your guard down and to actually say, hey, I'm struggling and I need help. That's the thing too. A lot of us Black folk is stubborn. But I get it. I get why we're so stubborn. But at the same time, it should never be okay to have to struggle in silence and alone or feel like there's no way out, because there definitely is. We need to start normalizing conversations about mental health in our communities. It's crucial to break down the stigmas and understand that seeking help it's not a sign of weakness, it's actually a strength because you actually care about yourself. And encouraging the open discussion. And by providing this type of support, it can make a huge difference in how we approach our mental health and our spirituality. Because it wasn't always normal in Black households to talk about these things and express feelings and emotions and mental health. So a lot of our Gen X grandparents and parents and even millennials, some of them too, they were brought up to be these emotionally and mentally dismissive people, sometimes even passive. And it's not their fault, but it's just like when you grow up in a household like that, what are you supposed to do? When you have emotionally unavailable parents and family members, what are you supposed to do? When the resources you need aren't accessible to you and you're not educated in mental illness, what are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to help yourself, or let alone help your own household? The answer, you don't. You just learn from your experience and you work with what you got. And it's sad, but unfortunately, it's true. A lot of us have lived or are living the same experiences, and it needs to be talked about a lot more. My generation, Gen Z, and the future generations have the power and the potential to make a difference and change the trajectory of how we handle our mental health and deal with our problems on a day-to-day. Creating community, safe spaces, not just for ourselves, but for our friends, our family, our children. And thank God now we have social media, which makes it even easier because there are a lot of free resources and people out there that you can talk to and can communicate with who you probably can relate to. There are so many people in this world who might be going through the same thing, but you wouldn't know that if you don't actually take the time to do your research, look things up, and find these support groups and outlets and spaces that you can feel safe in. Now, I want to talk about spirituality, but I want to backtrack back in time to slavery and the slave era. The treatment of the slaves was horrible, but there was a couple of things that kept them together, and that was God and music. The formation of the Black church started during the slave era. Religion and spiritual practice is embedded within us. However, this is not to offend anyone at all, but religion has always been used as a control tactic. You don't have to agree with me, but the Europeans, they introduced Christianity and the church as a way to bond these people through their experiences, to make them think that through God's service, faith, and obedience, that is the way. Like, you're still a slave, but you're serving God and you're living in your purpose and you're doing what's best, when that's all an illusion. But because spirituality was something that they were able to cling to and make their own, God being the source and the healer of all, it trauma bonded these people, because they're thinking that we're praying to God, we're hoping that there's a way out, we're hoping that, things will get better, when in actuality, you know what your reality is, and God is all around you, yes, but it made people believe that God can fix all, and we have to turn to God for any and everything. And there is truth to spiritual healing, but mental health and spiritual health are two different things. They can coincide together, but they are separate. Your mental health is one thing, but your spiritual health is another. People believe that spiritual faith and spiritual faith alone is all you need to cure your mental health, and still do. But that's because of our past, like I said. But a lot of people have no idea how to handle or navigate these problems. So of course you're gonna turn to what you think is the most healing, and if that's God, and if that's go pray about it, then that's what you're gonna do. I seen this video on Twitter a while ago. It was a long time ago. It went viral, and it was a mom and a son, and they were at a Black church, and they went up. The mom brought the son to the altar to pray with the preacher. Now the son, I think he had autism or some mental disability, I don't know, but there was definitely something wrong, and she brought her son up to the altar to pray, and the preacher, a woman, she starts praying with them or whatever, and she puts her hands over the son and starts praying over him, but kind of like trying to demonize his mental health and cast it out of him like it's the devil or something. And it's people like that and those type of experiences that turn me completely off from religion. Like, let's be for real. It's the ignorance for me. It's the audacity for me. Now, there's nothing wrong with standing in your faith and going to church and believing what you believe. I grew up going to church too. However, the crazy thing is, it be the most Bible thumping church folk that be the main ones sinning. Like, you know what you've been doing all week, and you know what you did last night. Then you're gonna be in church on Sunday morning shouting for Jesus until you can't shout no more. Or be in someone else's face telling them what they're doing wrong and what they need to do to fix their life, but whole time, well, you the most sinful. Like, I never understood that. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother time, y'all. But you can incorporate spiritual and mental health together, but it's all about a balance and moderation, and knowing when to actually go and seek that professional help. On a serious note, friend, it's okay. It is okay to not be okay. Your mental health, it matters, and it doesn't matter whether you're Black, white, whatever. Your mental health matters. There are resources to help you, and you are not alone on your journey. There are so many people out there who will probably be willing to support, and it's okay to be vulnerable and let your guard down. Your mental health is not a weakness, it's a part of you. It's something that should be looked after and taken care of, because how can you be your best self when you're not feeling like your best self? And to all of my Black kings and queens out there, make sure that you're looking into our history. Make sure that you're understanding the history of our mental health and where we come from, and just continue to be great. Friends, that is the end of this episode. I really hope that you guys enjoyed, and if you made it all the way to the end, comment down below a hey friend with some heart emojis so I can see you. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss an update on the pod and the YouTube channel. I love you guys, and I will chit chat with you next episode. Mwah. Bye.